This video was made possible thanks to the support from my patrons. Pledge today and you can be involved in what videos get made next, and also get early access to them. Link in the description. It's the beginning of a new chapter in the fascinating and turbulent history of Doctor Who. After previous showrunner Chris Chibnall passed the baton to former showrunner Russell T Davies, Russell went straight to work ensuring that his second go-around would be the biggest ever for the programme. For the first time in the show's history, the programme is not being developed in-house by the BBC. Instead, production is being handled by Welsh company Bad Wolf, founded by returning producers Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter. This move is less about the BBC not really caring about their biggest sci-fi show, and more to do with the fact that the United Kingdom right now is literally too poor of a country to make its #1 financial export, that being the arts and entertainment. Enter Disney, who are handling international distribution on their streaming service, as well as contributing some of the budget towards the show as well. And before you ask, it's not just Doctor Who. Look at Aardman Animations, who can't even make anything anymore without international financial backing from Netflix. We are so screwed as a country. New Doctor Ncuti Gatwa from Barbie and Netflix's Sex Education made his regenerational debut at the end of the 60th anniversary specials last year, and charted his own path forward in a Christmas special, where he met and recruited new companion Ruby Sunday, played by Millie Gibson. This leaves the first episode of a new series in kind of an odd place, because the show has been on screens for the best part of 60 years, with a modern iteration for nearly 20, but this new run is being treated as a relaunch that is also piggybacking off a complicated canon faux reset and a new status quo in the last specials. It seems that Russell T Davies' approach to this new era with Space Babies is just to go big, move fast, and go bonkers. Give us an episode so mad and fun to establish the tone of this hotly anticipated series, whose coming was literally heralded in the UK by an aurora borealis. No, I'm not making that up.
The sky's gone woke!
Okay, so the rationale is, we need to set a tone for the new regime, which is also predominantly run by the old regime. We have a new Doctor, new companion, a new international audience, so let's go into the past, then into the future in space, let's showcase a giant monster in the basement, and...
oh yeah, babies.
But let me back up. Let's go through the plot of Doctor Who Space Babies. And whether you've been watching Doctor Who for years or you're a brand new viewer, welcome to the channel. My name is Mr. TARDIS, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button for weekly Doctor Who videos, reviews, live streams, and more. So, after a brief crash course on the Doctor's history, he's the last of the Time Lords, he has a machine disguised as a police box called the TARDIS that can go backwards and forwards in time. Ruby elects to go to the year 21,506, and the two land on an abandoned baby farm on a space station. The grown-ups have up and left, but due to regulation, they can't turn the machinery off, meaning the babies left behind are trying to pick up the slack. But the literal, actual bogeyman is in the depths of the ship, and supplies are running dangerously low. It's up to the Doctor and Ruby to protect the space babies from their worst nightmares, and find them a new home. So we'll talk about the A-plot in a minute, but we kind of need to talk about the elephant in the room here, and that's the excessive info dumping that takes place in Space Babies. Now, obviously there are fundamentals that need explaining, but surely the Church on Ruby Road already covered a lot of these bases, and things like the initials of the TARDIS and the Doctor's two hearts, the Doctor literally just brings up unprompted because maybe there's a test later? I don't know. It results in a lot of clunky dialogue, and since there's a lot of telling and not a lot of showing in regards to this lore, it means that what should be a fun breakneck pace opening few minutes, it does feel laboured. We'll circle back on Space Babies' odd placement as a season opener later, but it does come across as read the Wikipedia page really fast, let Ncuti Gatwa's charisma just carry it all, as opposed to organic character work, or a gradual unfolding of the show's fundamentals. Let me elaborate. So early on, after the Doctor has explained the TARDIS translation circuits and its broken chameleon circuit,
most of the universe is knackered.
This is all fine, no complaints here. Ruby brings up whether or not her mum is still alive, and then the Doctor upgrades her phone, and then she calls Clara. And then she calls Carla to establish that time is relative. This is like a ritual for Russell T Davies companions, but let's go back to its first implementation in 2005. Rose Tyler in Series 1 is overwhelmed by being in the year 5 billion. She's about to witness the death of her home by an expanding sun. She's surrounded, in fact mobbed by aliens in her first ever experience travelling in time. The Doctor took her here to show off. She got overwhelmed and, in a way, he neglected his duty of care. The Doctor's been alone for a while and didn't really consider Rose's feelings. A rift develops between them. The Doctor tries to patch it with humour, which further angers Rose, and this breaks into a full-blown argument.
All that counts is here and now, and this is me!
Yeah, and I'm here too, because you brought me here, so just tell me!
The Doctor steps away to cool off. Rose follows because she sees that he's hurting, and makes a joke about her phone being out of range. The Doctor upgrades it, they share a moment to establish that they're still friends.
Is that a technical term, jiggery pokery?
Yeah, I came first in jiggery pokery. What about you?
Nah, I failed hullabaloo.
Oh.
And then Rose calls her mum. The rift between them healed. Now, why did I take a trip down memory lane? Because this is an actual mini-arc within the episode. The Doctor's ego hurts Rose. The hurt boils over and the two reconnect over the phone.
I think that's amazing. You want to see the bill?
But in Space Babies, he just upgrades the phone because there's a checklist of things the Doctor needs to do now. There's nothing gleaned from Ruby's phone call to her mum. Obviously, I'm only noticing this because of the show's history, but honestly, if you lose that phone scene in The End of the World, you're actually missing strong thematic character work. Take the phone scene out of Space Babies and I don't even think you'd sense that something was lost. The handing over of the TARDIS key, on the other hand, does feel a bit more organic and actually informed by the episode. But once we get into the baby farm proper, things take a turn for the better. For those who have been keeping an eye on the production of the latest series, I remember the day the headlines dropped in early 2023 that one episode of New Doctor Who would, quote, involve a cast of 9 babies. What? Inspired by the wordplay of Victorian baby farms, and hopefully nothing else, these are ships that grow babies for worlds struggling with fertility for whatever reason, but the babies have been abandoned for 6 years, growing in mental maturity, but not their bodies, relying on automated pushchairs to get around with a series of pulley systems and string to operate the ship that's falling apart from the inside. Russell's original idea was for the babies to walk around via digital effects, kind of like Baby Herman from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but due to the limitations opted for pushchairs, which I think was the best way to go. But the lip syncing is very hit or miss. It's clearly a very complex effect to pull off, so props for trying, but there's something about the baby's expressions, the voice acting, and the effect itself that sometimes veers firmly into the uncanny valley. And yes, I am going to criticise the acting skills of children. Back in my day, those kids would have been down pit with real jobs.
It's just a baby!
But by the time you get to the scene where the babies reveal they've never been hugged and the Doctor is having a heart-to-heart with Captain Poppy, either the effect got better or I just got used to it. You can see Russell taking the populist approach like he did in the Church on Ruby Road because, well, it's easy to root for and sympathise with literal babies. When you've got Poppy asking the Doctor if they grew up wrong or if they were a mistake, how couldn't you melt at that in some way? But what works about this scene is just how earnestly Ncuti Gatwa plays it. Millie as well, but Ncuti giving moral support to Poppy. For me, this was his big introductory Doctor moment. Not the humour, not the bombast, though he has that in spades.
Wait, come here, butterfly, come here, have it!
But seeing a frightened child and earnestly helping them. It felt very 11th Doctor in the Rings of Akaten.
You are unique in the universe.
But I love Ncuti's enthusiasm, his vigour and energy, and how good he looks in tight shirts, and why did I write that? His reaction to Ruby picking a 5th number to complete the date. His speech about why he travels and him risking life and limb to rescue the bogeyman at the end. Okay, let's talk about that. So there's a creature in the depths of the ship. It turns out that the ship's accountant is still on board, pretending to be an automated computer to protect the kids.
Nanomatrix Electroform, Nani!
Now, let's talk theming, because yeah, there's the obvious through line of the Doctor being abandoned or lost as a child, to Ruby being left on the steps of the church on Ruby Road, but it goes beyond the superficial. Now, the Doctor's adoption is a retcon from the previous showrunner, which was pretty controversial amongst fans, not so much because it changed the history, but because absolutely nothing was done on a story or a character level with this new information that was imposed on the show. But the idea of found family or lost children is something the show has dived into before, though this was the 1960s, so it mainly acted as window dressing or leaning into archetypes of adoption or being an orphan for easy sympathy, like companions Vicky and Dodo, who were companions of the first Doctor in 1964 and 1965 respectively. We even had Amy Pond with the 11th Doctor, who had missing parents, but it didn't really factor into her character or storyline. But it seems that Russell is wanting to explore this subject with more dimensions, and while I don't really know many fans who were on board with this new origin story, one group who got a lot out of it were fans who were adopted themselves. Chris Chibnall was adopted, and that informed his work on the show, and fans like him found it to be a really affecting development. And you know what? That's valid, that has merit, and in Space Babies this manifests as the responsibility of a society when births are mandated. The backstory in this episode is that the planet below went into recession, so they shut down the baby farm to save money, but with the caveat that regulations meant they can't legally turn the mechanisms off. So essentially the state uses its power to force these babies to be born, but won't use that same power to help those babies afterwards, which seems like a pretty clear commentary on abortion, specifically reproductive rights in America, and the lack of healthcare and childcare to look after those babies forced to term. The idea that conservatives purport to care deeply about fetuses, but couldn't care less if actual children suffer. And how authorities want to maintain birth rates during a recession, but that recession causes people to not be able to afford kids. While Russell T Davies has clearly pitched this commentary to an American audience, though in the UK, as long as conservatives exist, reproductive rights here are always on the razor's edge. It's more just a throwaway piece of commentary rather than something the episode pivots on, and with this, we have Golda Rosheuvel playing the only original crew member remaining, Jocelyn. This really shows the range of Golda, as most viewers will likely know her as the powerful, authoritative Queen Charlotte in Netflix's Bridgerton, but here she's a desperate crew member with no real authority who is losing touch with her humanity. It's a strong performance, but there's not too much for her to work with here. It feels more like a casting flex. Though her nanny filter was very funny throughout. It felt like Russell T Davies revisiting his love of Douglas Adams like his other sci-fi work. And with the Bogeyman, maybe there's some commentary here about how Doctor Who should be able to scare kids, and the idea of telling scary stories to kids to help them be brave, but I think it got lost in the shuffle, because it turns out that this creature was born at around the same time as the Space Babies by the onboard computer to give the kids fiction to help them grow. The Doctor and Ruby explore the lower decks, Ruby gets covered in whatever the creature goo is, only for them to discover that the Bogeyman is literally made of bogies, sourced from the babies upstairs.
It's not!
It's not.
Any worries that Russell T Davies would Americanize Doctor Who feels quashed here. This is distinctly British wordplay.
Bogey! 2 to beat. Will he do it? Yes, he will. That's a 2.7. A majestic bogey.
And Ruby being covered in snot? God, even Adric didn't get it that bad. On the tier list of companion suffering, you've got memory wipe down here, and then snot drenched here, right next to married to Brian Blessed. Shout out to the practical effects team who showcased their work on Doctor Who Unleashed, credited as snotologists.
Welcome to Bogey Central. Today we're learning how to cook with snot.
Now the Bogeyman is a really great practical design. The suit is great, it works as an abstract standalone creature and a gross out concept once the episode reveals what it is. Its roar is specifically pitched to scare people, even the Doctor. We have the great lighting, the obscured angles, it's roaring at the security camera. I actually think the episode did too good a job at making this a horrifying monster for them to try and make the audience and the characters sympathise with it for the story's climax. So Space Baby Eric goes into the basement to fight it off, inspired by Ruby. He presumably gets attacked and hides in a cupboard to change his nappy. Then the Bogeyman is fought off by the other babies wielding a flamethrower. That's a sentence. An understandably desperate and protective Jocelyn then traps the creature in an airlock and tries to remove it. Then all of a sudden the babies are concerned for its safety?
You're hurting him.
Stop it, Nanny! Stop it!
I appreciate the story wholeheartedly committing to the idea that there really is no such thing as monsters and that all life is precious, even if it's made from snot, but from the characters' perspectives, it's acting like an anti-vaxxer. It's trying to murder the babies. Maybe if they'd established that the bogeyman went out of its way to not harm Eric earlier, or at the very least, there's some assurance that the bogeyman won't try and eat everyone in sight once the space station finds a suitable home for the babies. There's too many question marks here for the heart to roll over the head, for me at least. But like I said, I liked the sentiment, and maybe there is something admirable in the black and white morality, that the Doctor will risk his life for what he thinks is just a mindless baby-eating creature, just because he's the Doctor and that's the code he lives by. I can see the pros and cons of this. But yeah, the babies and the bogeyman are saved, and to take them to their new refugee-friendly home, the Doctor releases all of the poop-supplied methane from the station to propel them forward. Let's talk tone. Now, this ties back to what I was referring to earlier about Space Babies being a really odd season opener, because it walks like a season opener, but it doesn't really talk like one. It's an episode built out of function, setting the tone of this new era, establishing the characters, the rules, and the gumption. But wasn't that the job of The Church on Ruby Road? With Space Babies, it feels like we get two back-to-back episodes that want to establish the tone and the form, which kind of takes the wind out of this episode's sails a bit. Like, yeah, we already know that this era of Doctor Who is taking inspiration from fantasy, fairy tales, and an emphasis on children. We got all that at Christmas. Doctor Who? For children? I've never heard such arrant nonsense. Look at the books and the Blu-rays behind me. This is for adults only, and is to be taken extremely seriously.
Can I play with it?
No, you can't play with it. You won't enjoy it on as many levels as I do. The colors, children.
Okay, if I wasn't clear, I have no issue with Doctor Who being bonkers, silly, and so explicitly strange. We saw this with Russell T Davies before, and even Stephen Moffat. The bogeyman made out of bogies, a farting space station that's a literal baby farm. This does jibe with the same show that gave us Living Fat, a flap of skin as a villain, a straw-wielding elderly vampire on the moon, the 12th Doctor distracting Japanese business people with Pokemon. Yes, that one actually happened.
Bit empty, isn't it?
Yes, I created a distraction. I flooded downstairs with Pokemon.
And of course, the time the Daleks fought Dracula and Frankenstein's monster.
Don't go. Don't go. Don't go.
Obviously, there are limits to this philosophy. I'm not saying that aiming something at kids means that you get a free pass, but what works in Space Babies is how earnestly it commits to this. Yes, it's bonkers, but it's put in the legwork to make you care about the babies and their situation. It's not just bonkers to propel itself forward as a piece of TV. There's actual thought and care into the characters and the world building. And once again, I think a lot of this comes from the team working in front of and behind the cameras. We have director Julie Ann Robinson, who is mostly well known for high-concept dramas like The Good Place, Bridgerton, and Orange is the New Black, as well as multi-camera sitcoms. I think it's her work on the latter that made her a great fit for actors like Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, because I imagine she'd be happy to give them the freedom to experiment and bounce off each other. But also, perhaps her humanitarian work raising money for Syrian refugees might have informed her work on this episode as well. Maybe it's down to her that the actors played it so sincerely, at a guess. But it's snappy, it's pacey, the edits are quick but thoughtful, most likely because they need to edit around the babies and what workable footage they had. Side note, I work in TV and film, and I've worked with babies on set before, and I massively admire the dedication and the patience required from those who are in front of the camera. Legally, you can only have the babies on set for 2 hours a day, and you can rehearse these scenes 100 times over to get them perfect before the babies turn up, but then when they do turn up and they're not cooperating, it can be stressful. Massive respect to everyone involved.
Captain Poppy, when was the last time that someone gave you a hug? Never.
No joke, this is probably where most of the budget went. And yeah, there's only a few sets in this episode, but they're crammed with detail. Like I said, I think the Bogeyman costume was terrific, some great music from Murray Gold hitting both extremes with massive whimsy and bombastic spook house, but it still feels like Doctor Who, corridor running and all. And lastly, let's give some kudos to Millie Gibson. There are some standout moments from Ruby and bits that are great and informed by character. I love how she instantly bolts for the basement when she realises Eric is down there because of her. She's so unapologetically Mank and I love her for that. I also feel like from her there might be a bit of deliberate overacting, with some very quizzical and over-the-top facial expressions, presumably for gifs or meme potential, because that's just how mass media is engineered these days. But they were never really distracting. I like Ruby a lot, and I'm definitely intrigued by what's happening with her mystery. The imagery of the snow seeping through the memory into the spaceship and in the TARDIS console room is haunting. I also like the ambiguity of whether or not the Doctor won't take her back to Ruby Road because of a potential time paradox, or because he doesn't want her to know that he's already been back there. Interesting stuff, but we'll have to wait until future episodes because Ruby decides to go back to her foster mother and grandmother, with the TARDIS unable to fit in their kitchen. This has been a fun recurring trend in this new era of Doctor Who. The TARDIS doesn't just fade in and out without issue, it either flies in, crashes in, or something else. Oh, and speaking of which, they fixed the logo in the intro, but I preferred the original clouds the TARDIS shot across. Doctor Who fans are never happy, are they? Oh, and another mystery, who is Susan Twist playing? Because she's one of the protesting staff members on the TV screen, but she was also in Wild Blue Yonder and The Church on Ruby Road. Questions for later. But anyway, Space Babies. I think it mostly works as a fun sci-fi story aimed at younger audiences. It's closer to New Earth and Partners in Crime than it is to The 11th Hour on the quality scale, but I'm not sure how successful it is as an introduction to the season. Like I said, we already had The Church on Ruby Road, and it feels like Space Babies hits the same tonal and thematic beats to the extent that it almost feels redundant, or like an elongated epilogue to The Church on Ruby Road. What I will say though is that this is a good litmus test for whether or not Doctor Who is for you. If you're not on board after a group of talking babies attack the Bogeyman with a makeshift flamethrower, and then the Doctor whistles to summon one of the babies' pushchairs, whose return is greeted by triumphant music, then good news, you've saved yourself 60 years and counting of TV trivia that will become your full-time job. Help me. But the production is strong for the most part, the performances are solid with Ncuti and Millie, making for such an infectious pairing, and it's sowing some interesting seeds for the future. But join me next time as Doctor Who returns to its swinging 60s roots at Abbey Road Studios, where we finally meet the Beatles and witness a world without music as a macabre demigod is seeking to rob the world of song in The Devil's Chord. I'll see you then. Hey folks, thank you so much for watching my review of Doctor Who Space Babies. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below, and let me know what you thought of the new video format. It's something I want to try and do moving forward to help with the editing process and also to avoid all the copyright stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, it helps to appease the almighty YouTube algorithm. Leave a like while you're down there as well, and also subscribe for more Doctor Who reviews. Another way you can support this channel is through Patreon. My patrons got this review a couple of days early. Some of them get access to a Mr. TARDIS Discord server. We had a group voice call the other night talking about The Devil's Chord and Space Babies, and you can also get your name in the credits like these lovely people. I want to give a shout out to these particular patrons: Adam Grattan, Ben Langdon, Chiba City Blues, Christopher McDonald, Daniel Davis, Darius, Darren Carver-Bausinger, DC63 Productions, Dean Jones, Dreamer Who, Dylan Whitaker, Air Hoovian, Healing Wind 1997, High Lord Warnier, Jack D. Evans, Jonathan Jimenez Majica, Joseph Adams, Lard Dragon Ezra. Oh, my own space baby's turned up. Winnie. Oh, my own space baby. Lard Dragon Ezra, Leela, Lithgomania, Maria Bergman, Marianne Mogensen, Mario Fanboy 15, Michael Serrano, Miranda Logan, Palex, Pat Andrews, Randall Sprinkle, Raven Woods, Reese Lloyd, Ross A.T. Stewart, Ryan Duncan, Sam Montgomery, Samuel Whitaker, Sarah Parker Shemilt, Scott Johnson, The Brit Sniper, The Scarlet Watcher, Thomas Price, and Will. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping to keep the lights on here. Thanks to you folks for watching, and I'll see you next time.